Okay, this recording is going to walk you through number 16 on page 992. The polar equation is r equals 3 over 2 minus 3 sine theta. I want you to listen carefully to this topic because I'm going to be giving you some hints for an assessment that might be coming up. So first thing you want to do is you want to figure out what type of conic you have. The eccentricity is the value in front of sine or cosine as long as this first number is 1. In this situation, it's not. So in order to make this number 1, I want to divide by 2, because 2 divided by 2 will be 1. I'm allowed to do that as long as I do it to both the numerator and the denominator. Once I've simplified that, then I can clearly see the eccentricity. It's the value in front of the trig. The eccentricity is 3 halves. 3 halves is more than 1, so that tells me that this is a hyperbola. And I know that it's a vertical hyperbola because I see sine. Sine is always in the y direction. So we have a vertical hyperbola. If we have a vertical graph, thinking about the unit circle, the angles that are on the vertical are up here. This angle is pi over 2. And down here, this angle is 3 pi over 2. So the vertices are going to have those values. To find the coordinates, we're going to plug those values into theta. So to figure out the bottom, the denominator, sine pi over 2, I'm going to my unit circle. There's pi over 2. The sine is the y value. 3 divided by negative 1 is negative 3. So there's a vertex in polar form. That says polar. At negative 3 pi over 2. Now for the second vertex, use the other theta value. This value is negative 1. I can find that on my unit circle. 3 over 2 plus 3, which is 3/5. So those are the two vertices in polar form. Now I want to switch those into rectangular form. Thinking again of my unit circle, if I go to angle pi over 2, which is up here, and then I go negative 3, I end up down here. So in rectangular form, negative 3 pi over 2 is 3 units below the origin. For the other one, I'm going to go to angle 3 pi over 2, which is the down angle, and I'm going to go out 3/5. Again, I'll be below the origin. So I'm going to be 3/5 unit below the origin. Now I can find the center. The center is the average of the two vertices. It might be helpful if they had the same denominator. So I'm going to rewrite the first vertex in terms of fifths, just by multiplying this value by 5 here. Negative 15 divided by 5 is the same thing as negative 3. So now I can average negative 15/5 to negative 3/5. So adding those together, I get negative 18. Negative 15 and negative 3. Add together, get negative 18. And half of that is negative 9. So the center is at negative 9/5. Then my A value is the distance from the center to either vertex. So how far is negative 9 from negative 15 or negative 9 from negative 3? It is 6 away. But I'm counting in fifths, so it's 6/5 away. Next, I need to figure out my C value. I'm going to use my eccentricity. We know from this equation up here the eccentricity is 3 halves. And eccentricity is C over A. So the eccentricity is 3 halves. We don't know C yet. We just found that A was 6/5. So we're going to solve this. We're going to cross multiply. 3 times 6/5, you just multiply the numerators. That's 18/5 equals 2C. And then I want to divide by 2, which, by the way, is the same thing as multiplying by half. Okay, you multiply the numerators and the denominators. And I can simplify that. Those are both even numbers. It'll be helpful to reduce that. So C is 9/5. Now I can solve for B. This is a hyperbola. So the equation to solve for B is A squared plus B squared equals C squared. A was 6/5. And C, we just figured out, is 9/5. When you square fractions, you square both the numerator and the denominator. And then let's subtract to get B squared. You only need to subtract the numerators, 81 minus 36. Okay, so we now have enough information to write the equation in standard form. It's vertical, so it starts with a y. The center is at 0, negative 9/5. So x plus 0, that's why I didn't put parentheses there. And then remember, in parentheses, you switch the sign. So it'll be y plus 9/5. The a squared value goes first, followed by the b squared value. Okay, so that's the equation in standard form. Now we're going to take it all the way to general form. So general form says no parentheses, no fractions. So the first thing we need to do, we have fractions in our denominators. Let's make those, let's do the reciprocals. That way we only have one thing in our denominator. Okay, so now we want to get rid of the denominators 36 and 45. You want to pick one number that'll is divisible by both 36 and 45. So you're looking for the least common multiple of 36 and 45. Notice that they're both divisible by 9. 36 is 9 times 4. 45 is 9 times 5. Because the 9's repeated, you only need to use it once. If you multiply all the factors just once, you'll get the least common multiple. So 4 times 5 is 20. 20 times 9 is 180. So what we're going to do is we're going to multiply this equation through by 180. Because 180 ends up being divisible by 36 and by 45. So to multiply this through, I'm going to do 180 times 25 in my calculator. And I'm getting 4,500, and then I'm going to divide it by the 36, which gives me 125. This stuff right here, I did 180 times 25, and then divide by 36. And then the same thing, I'm going to do 180 times 25 again, so 4,500 again, divided by 45 is 100. And I also multiply the 180 on the right side. Now I want to expand this term right here, y plus 9/5 squared. I could FOIL it out, I could do my box method, but remember that your pattern is you always double the number. So double of 9/5 is 18/5, and then you square the number. So to square a fraction, you square both the numerator and the denominator. So that's the fast way of doing it. Okay, we're almost there. Equals 180. And then we need to distribute this 125. So we have 125y squared plus, I'm going to do my calculator, 125 times 18 divided by 5. And I'm getting 450. And then again, 125 times 81 divided by 25. And I'm getting 405 for that one. And then there's really just one move here. I need it to equal 0, so I'm going to subtract 180 from both sides. And then I'm going to put the terms in alphabetical order. So negative 100x squared plus 125y squared plus 450y plus 405 minus 180. I'm just going to do that one on the calculator really fast. 225. So that's the equation in general form. You will be assessed on this. We're going to keep going, and on the next page, we're going to do number 17. Okay, so remember, first you want to start by identifying the conic. In order to identify the conic, the denominator has to begin with 1. So we're going to divide everything through by 3 to force that denominator to start with a 1. So we get that r equals, we'll put 2/3 there. Okay, so we see that e is 2/3. That's less than 1, so we're dealing with an ellipse. And we're dealing with a vertical ellipse. That's not how to spell vertical. There we go. Okay. So once you know the direction, vertical, then you need to think about the theta values that are on the vertical. So you're going to your unit circle, and the theta values that are on the vertical are pi over 2 and 3 pi over 2. So you're going to sub those into the original equation to find the r values. That'll give you your polar vertices. So here, and then we're also going to do so we have 2/5 pi over 2, and then we're also going to do 3 pi over 2 as a theta value. So those are the polar vertices. Next, we're going to convert the polar vertices into rectangular vertices. So graphing these, if I go to angle pi over 2, and then I go out 2/5 above the pole. If I go to angle 3 pi over 2, and then I go out 2, I am below the pole. So those are the vertices. Next, I'm going to average the vertices to find the center. It's a lot easier to work with fractions if everything has the same denominator. So I'm going to think of this as -10/5. Just multiply 2 by 5 to get -10. So the average of -10 and 2, add those together, and I get -8, and then half of that is -4. So that's the center. Once you have your center, then you can tell what your A value is, because it's the distance from the center to either vertex. So the distance from -4 to -10 is 6. The distance from pi over 2 to -4 is 6. So my A value is 6/5. Once you have your A value, then you're going to figure out your C value using your eccentricity. So eccentricity is C over A. From the original equation, we know that the eccentricity is 2/3. And we're going to cross multiply here. So I'm going to get 2 times 6/5 is 12/5 equals 3C. To get rid of the 3, I'm going to multiply both sides by 1/3. So I have 12 over 15 equals C. Both of those numbers are divisible by 3. I'm going to reduce. That's a 5. Once you have your C value, then you can find your B value. It's an ellipse, so we're going to use A squared minus B squared equals C squared. 6/5 squared minus B squared equals 4/5 squared. Remember, you square both the numerator and the denominator. And then I'm going to add B squared to both sides. so that then I can subtract 16/25. And again, when they have the same denominator, just subtract the numerators. 36 minus 16 is 20. You don't need to take the square root because we're going to use b squared anyways. So once you know what b is, then you're ready to write your equation in standard form. It's an ellipse, so we'll have x squared plus y squared equaling 1. It's centered at 0, -4/5. So in the y, we'll put plus 4/5. It is a vertical ellipse, so a squared goes under y. So a squared is 36/25, and then b squared will go under x. So there's the equation in standard form. Last step is we're going to take it into general form. Remember, general form, no fractions, no parentheses. First thing we're going to do is we're going to use reciprocals. So there's only one number in the denominator. Okay, we want to multiply through by the least common multiple of 20 and 36. Factors of 20 are 4 and 5. Factors of 36 are 9 and 4. So you use all the factors only once, so we're not going to repeat 4. So 9 times 5 times 4 is 180. So we're going to multiply through by 180. So I'm going to do 180 times 25 divided by 20. I'm getting 225 there. Plus 180 times 25 divided by 36. I'm getting 125. Keep forgetting that squared, huh? Okay, now I'm going to expand that out. Remember, the pattern is to double it and then square it. Now that that's expanded, you can distribute the 125. So I'm going to do 125 times 8 divided by 5. I'm getting 200 plus, and then again 125 times 16 divided by 25. I'm getting 80 equals 180. And then last step, it just needs to equal 0. Put everything in alphabetical order, which it actually already is. And then 80 minus 180 ends up being minus 100. And there's the equation in general form. That's it. Remember that you will be assessed on this.